Tom Storey.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Really great to have you here. Great to meet you in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I know you because I've been watching your content for a number of years now.
I apologize for that.
No, it's been great. You've been making content for how long?
Pretty much from the end of 2015.
2015. So that long. Like, seems like everybody and their dog is jumping out there and trying to do something now, right? But 2015, that's quite a while.
It's evolved since then a lot, and the type of content's changed. I remember what it was actually. So I got my license in February of 2014.
Okay.
And my first 6 months in real estate, I had made $10,000. Now, luckily, I was living with my parents. I was like, okay, I'm surviving, but like, this isn't going to work, right?
No.
And I had many thoughts of like, all right, like time to start thinking.
So
about
your first
else.
year in real estate was $10,000?
My first 6 months.
So 6 months.
Now the last 6 months things picked up. I think we ended year one at like 45,000 in commissions, and I was like, okay, like I survived because I'm living at home. And then the end of the second year in 2015 happened, and I was so frustrated because I felt like, and I feel like a lot of people feel this way in any business. It's like on an understanding of my product, I felt like I knew what I was doing. The clients that did work with me liked me, and they referred me to their friends. I'm like, okay, there's something here, but why am I still not doing anywhere near the business as this person or this person? And you start kind of looking like up the ladder and being like, well, what's going on here? And
what are they doing different?
well, they've been doing it longer. Really, that's what it was. And then what I recognized is like, at the time I was 23, and I'm like, and my core market has always kind of been CO1, CO8. Downtown Toronto. Not on purpose. That's just where I started, and I did rentals, and that's how I built up my database. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm good at what I do, but I'm not getting the seat at the kitchen table. How do I get the seat at the kitchen table? Okay, I can do marketing. Couldn't afford billboards. Couldn't afford bus benches. Couldn't afford to do flyers. I didn't have money for that. But what I could do is I could talk about the market in front of a camera. So we started doing monthly market reports that still exist on YouTube that are like horrendous to look at. And me sitting in front of a crappy, I think I used to record on my iPad mini. Like that was the camera with no microphone. Yeah. And I would make 2-minute market update videos, and I would email it to my database at the time of like 60 people. And I just did it every month. And then every month, and then I became more educated on the market because I had to film myself talking about it. And then it just kept taking off, and now it's gotten to the point that we're doing a good chunk of our business from YouTube.
Now you seem very comfortable with the numbers side of thing. When you're talking about the market, you understand the numbers, you interpret it well, and you know I think not just clients but realtors probably wait for your verbiage on what's happening, right?
The feedback I've gotten is that I can take complicated things and simplify them, which I appreciate that feedback. I'm like, no, I'm just saying it the way I understand it. Yeah. Like I just want to take it so that a consumer can watch my video and walk away and be like, okay, I kind of have an idea of what direction this is going here.
And what was your background? Like you're only 23, so you didn't have a long background, but what were you just coming out of school?
Yeah, I was fresh out of university. Went to the University of Guelph, degree in sociology, which I have never used. I was so certain, like I started taking my license at the end of fourth year. Did a little Euro trip when I graduated, and then when I got back, I just went into it, and now it's almost been 10 years, which is crazy. So no real career background before. This has been it.
Nice. And if you look at your audience, do you have an idea or a concept of how many are client base versus realtor base?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's kind of depends on the platform. So the way that we look at YouTube is me talking to consumers. I understand realtors watch it, but my whole goal of that is talking to consumers. And even with the podcast that we run, we've run surveys on YouTube and asking people like, who are you? If you watch us, who are you? It's like 90% consumers. Like, okay, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with another real estate podcast about how to sell more homes. But if I'm someone that runs a business, I would rather talk to buyers and sellers. So YouTube's pretty much like 90% consumers. And then Instagram is the other direction. My Instagram following is 90% realtors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And have you, let's go back to 2015 when you start doing the content.
Yeah.
Did you see immediate gratification, or what was the transition into generating business through that content?
No, that actually took many years. I'd say at the beginning, the videos were just another way to stay top of mind for the clients that I already had, and they would see me. And even during the time that they don't need you, they still see you. And regardless if they open that video or email or not, for that half second they saw Tom. Oh yeah, that's the guy that helped me lease my condo, right? That was kind of the thought process. Where it all kind of changed was, I'd actually say like 2019 is when real business started coming in from it. And the first thing that happened was I started getting news opportunities. I started going on the news, and now I've done live news like 50 or 60 times. Still,
how did that happen?
so it started because of the YouTube videos. It's kind of like this funny circle of started with, I put myself out there, so I showed the world in some capacity that I had the ability to talk in front of a camera, and that, you know, I wouldn't stumble on my words, and I knew kind of what I was talking about, right? Then I had a client I was referred to who happened to work for a PR company, who happened to work for Roy LePage at the time, and most of their PR people at the time were older, more experienced agents, and they reach out to me like, hey, like, you can talk in front of a camera, would you be interested in doing this? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And it used to all be through them, and they still give me opportunities. But now, once you get on the Rolodex,
You're on the circuit.
they will reach out to you twice a month.
What networks are you working with right now?
Pretty much CTV, CP24, which are the same.
Yeah.
And then Global are the main ones.
And how do you enjoy that?
I love it. Honestly, that's like, I love presenting in some capacity, whether it's one-on-one to a client, whether it's to a room of 1,000 people, but nothing gets the heart going like, hey, we're going in 5, 4, 3. And what people don't realize is the news anchor does not tell you what questions they're going to ask you. I'm going in there cold. Like, I know the topic. And so my little secret is like my first.
Nor do you know where it's going to go.
I have no
right
idea
from the
where it's
conversation.
gonna go.
Yeah.
So that's still that still gets me right before I'm like, you can do this. You've done this so many times before.
You have to know your numbers cold.
You got to know, and that's actually the conversation that we'll have with our clients now. Is like, I can't go on the news and talk about your property. That's not why they're having me on. No. However, I do think that I can give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace, because when I get those opportunities, I study the numbers. Like, I am obsessed with the numbers because I don't want to look like a fool on TV. So when I'm giving you, data points or information or why we should use this pricing strategy, it's not based on a gut feeling. It's based on like, this is what the numbers are saying, hence why I'm thinking that we should go this direction.
And that focus on understanding the market, understanding the numbers, have you seen that transition into like faith from your clients, from trust?
Yeah, people don't have to like the numbers, but it's hard to argue with them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? It is what it is. The facts are there, and it just like really helps paint a picture. When you ask a client, hey, have you ever heard of the term months of inventory? The average person that's not in the real estate world is like, no, what is that? Like, okay, well, it's the best way to fundamentally understand where the market is going. And I sit down and I'll literally do the math with them. But like, for your property type, for this area, let's break it down and show you. And it will give you the number where, typically in Toronto we're under 3, but these days for condos, it's like 7. So I know right now that 14% of condos in downtown are finding a buyer every single month. Would you like to be in that 14%? If so, here's the strategy that we need to take. So the numbers are very, very powerful, and being confident in the way that you show the numbers to clients. Because at the end of the day, my opinion of value of the property doesn't actually mean anything. It's what the market deems the value to be worth. I can get you to a point that I can get people in, and then I can cover the first 90%, the last 10%. We got to hope they like it. But yeah, the numbers are super powerful.
And do you find that makes it easier for you? We all know as realtors, there's the stubborn sellers that that have an unrealistic number in their head of what they're going to achieve on this property, right? Yeah. So do you find going into those conversations, knowing the numbers the way you do, it gives you a leg up on a lot of agents that are not necessarily up on the market as you are?
Yeah, and listen, we're not going to win every listing presentation. We lose lots as well, and sometimes we get, the other agent will buy the listing, right? They tell them a higher number and they grind them down on price, or it just sits there and never sells, and it's like, okay. But the fact that like I can back it up, and we've had quite a few recently where people have come to me in today's market saying like, I like this number. I'm like, I'd like you to get that number too. We're on the same page here, but here's the data. Unless you find something that I don't know exists, here's what the market sees. I'm not a magician. I think I'm good at my job, but I can't make magic happen. So here's what I think would have to happen in the market for you to get to that number. Why don't we regroup in a few months and we'll go over the numbers again.
Right.
So I'm just honest with them, because if I can't get them a number, my business is all word of mouth. It's 90% repeat and referral. If I sit there and tell them something they want to hear just for the sake of doing it, which you could have done in an upwards trending market where it's like, hey, you got 10 offers, which one do you want? But in this market, you got to be You got to know your stuff and have the confidence and the ability that you're the person at the table that's the professional. Give them your advice. Like if you're just there to be a yes person, you'll do okay, but you're not going to thrive in this business.
Yeah. So just go back to one of the numbers you just said there. Did you say 90% of your business is repeat referral?
Most.
So 10% come from the content?
Well, actually, it's actually funny. Like this year, probably 30% came from the content. But before we started going really into those new lead sources, still about 90% is word of mouth.
And so what do how important do you think content building is for realtors today? And what is the value of the content?
Well, I think the value is you have to look at where, maybe not competition, but where the other people in the industry, where are they spending their time creating content? Is it actually producing results? There's a big difference between creating content that gets you dopamine hits and likes and views versus content that gets you appointments, okay? And I've been very clear about this, like I am not trying to become a YouTuber. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a business owner that uses YouTube as a tool to meet new clients, right? That's the way that we've always looked at it. So right now for content, I think it's extremely important, but just understand that if it's vanity metrics you're looking for, you can get them. I don't post on TikTok. I don't post on Twitter.
You're not dancing on TikTok?
I'm not dancing. I'm not posting. I'm doing nothing. I only do YouTube and I only do Instagram because I know I have a proven, like I can look at the blueprint and say, this is possible. Here's the results that we can get.
You have a strategy, you have a focus, and you know who you're trying to talk to, right?
Yeah, and my thought process is, like, as a consumer, I think TikTok's the best platform. If I want to consume, it will feed me exactly what I want, but it's a hit, and then I scroll to the next one. As someone that wants to learn something, I'm going to YouTube. So if I'm on the opposite side trying to teach people something about the market, I'd rather them watch me on YouTube than 30 seconds of me saying something that's, like, outlandish, that goes semi-viral.
Just a hook and...
Like, there's a place for all that. That's all good.
Yeah.
But, like, to actually
it's a draw.
It's
a draw to get them over to YouTube, right? Like, anything you're putting on Instagram these days is hopefully pushing them over to watch your long form.
That's the whole
right?
point.
If they can have the attention span to do so, which a lot of people don't these days. But it's to try to get them over to YouTube to watch your long form, where they're really going to see the value that you're offering, right?
That's the goal, and you can see it in the numbers. Like we helped over 30 people this year buy and sell properties that we met off YouTube, and I would actually argue that if you look at like quality of, like, that's technically an online lead. I don't advertise. I don't put money behind this, right? It's all organic.
It's organic.
So when they come in, they fill out the form, they give me all the information. When you set up the first call with them, they're like, hey, like, I know you. I'm like, cool. Like, and there's no like, hey, I'm interviewing 5 people. It's like, I watch your videos for 6 months. Me and my wife are thinking about investing in a condo in downtown, and you obviously know what you're talking about. Can we set up a call to go through everything together? And other than a direct referral from a past client or a past client reaching out to you, this has been the best quality of online opportunity I've ever seen.
Now, this year, you said 30 deals that came from, or 30% of your business came from YouTube, which is 30 deals. You're having a great year. I have your numbers up here. I'm not going to broadcast them, but you've been on an amazing trajectory ever since. You said 2019, but even 2018 was a pretty good year.
Yeah.
But 2019, you really started to climb, right? Everybody's out there. I said to you before we got on here, and I've been bringing it up every podcast, but the Tulum effect.
Right.
The agents out there that the market slowed down, so they all took off to Tulum, and they're just waiting for it to return, right? What have you done differently? Because you're having the best year of your career in the worst market in history. Well, our history.
In the last 20 years, at least, yeah. So I learned a lesson at the beginning of the pandemic, as primarily, like our business right now is we list a lot of condos and we buy a lot of homes. We're helping a lot of people trade out of their condos into homes. But we were very active in the condo market. And when things switched, because we all think pandemic house prices went up. Yeah, other than downtown condos, they went down 10 to 12% in that first 6 months. And I remember sitting there one day looking at my phone, and I had like 22 active listings. And I'm like, this is so stressful. I'm just calling people. My job is now just to call people with bad news. And even if like there's been no showings in 2 weeks, I have nothing new to tell you. Nothing else is sold, but there's been 8 more that have come to the market. I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you, and I think about you a lot. You take up a lot of my time. Like, I just want to let you know what's going on. And I remember thinking, like, that was early 2020, and I was like, this is going to be very tough. But But then you realize it's a numbers game. It's like, yeah, I was holding more inventory than normal, but I was still selling 1 or 2 a week. And it was build up. And at the end of the year, when everyone was like, that was a really tough year, I'm like, actually, I took over more listings than I've ever done in my life. And I started taking over more market share. What's interesting is the feedback that we got when the market got tough for those 6 months of 2020 was, hey, Tom, we tried to sell it before with this person, but we need someone that is an expert in this area now. I'm like, oh, interesting. So tough markets are actually my ability to take over more market share. And that's also how we've looked at most of 2023. Because, yeah, mathematically, you know, there's 70,000 realtors and 65,000 homes are going to sell this year. So, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of competition on paper.
Yeah, it's the entrepreneurs that are in this business that are having the best year of their life, right? Just had Kaylee Heaps on, we just had Jazz on, Andrew Perry was just on, and all these people that I've had on recently are having the best year of their life, and that's what I want people to see. Like the Tulum effect, waiting for this market return is not the answer. There's things you need to be doing, and there's market share to be taken, like you said.
I think there's massive opportunity right now. If you're someone that doesn't look at this like a job, but looks at this like a career, and you're going to be doing this for the next, I look at like my real estate career like buying an investment property. It's like, other than unforeseen circumstances, I'm holding this thing till it's paid off and the mortgage is gone. Same thing with my career. Like, I'm investing in it now for the future. So we've actually doubled up on the flyers that we're sending for early 2024. We're doing more events. Like, we're spending money into our business now because I understand, yeah, it's going to be more difficult, but the market share that you can take over, I think there's just going to be a huge opportunity.
For sure. I think there's a huge opportunity for clients as well right now, right? Like there is opportunities. Like we're talking about pre-con. I know you're not a big fan of pre-con, but even in the pre-con world, for people that are struggling to get into the market, in the pre-con world, there's opportunities, right? Because there's major incentives. Developers are trying to move product, and there's big deposit structure incentives. And I think that's, like you said, that's the one point for pre-con right now is the ability for people that can't necessarily get into the resale market to get into the market.
Yeah, I think it's just as long as they're educated on that, like, you have that opportunity, but you have to know that, yes, you are paying a premium versus buying something that's,
for sure,
5 years old across the street.
Yeah, you're paying futures, right?
You're paying futures. And I think it's an interesting market right now. Like the reason why the sales volume is down is obviously interest rates, but it's uncertainty. It's buyers don't know, should I buy now or is it going to keep going down?
Trying to catch the falling knife.
Right, and they're all going to wait till the first rate cut comes, and then the market's going to pick up again, and we can go all day on, like, is it the right time? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's the right time.
I say this at the last 3 episodes, and I'm going to say it again, but be weary when people are greedy, be greedy when people are weary. But people always forget that. Like the rich are buying. If you look at home sales down in the States right now, I heard a crazy number, and I did not validate this, but just someone was telling me this, but private equity firms have bought 40% of the listings across the U.S. this in 2023, like BlackRock and whatnot, right? Like that's,
so if
it has to tell you something.
If you have, like, there's the cash buyers, right, that you're actually buying an asset at a lower purchase price because you're heavy cash down payment. But then anybody else, like if you actually look from when interest rates started going up in February 2022, obviously variable rate holders are feeling it. Fixed rate people are about to feel it because they're coming up to renewals in the next 2 years if they haven't already renewed. Has housing become less expensive? No. The purchase price has. The cost of ownership is the most it's ever been, and not just on ownership, but rentals as well. Like, no one's really, who's actually gotten in a better position here. And we won't know for another 10 years when we look back at this time. Yeah. But I've even started to think about it now. I'm like, I should be buying something right now. Some of these condos I'm listing are selling at prices that I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I buy that?
You see the odd listing popping up that you know it's a deal. You know there's a story there, all right? And I think if people are liquid and able to jump in right now, there's definitely opportunity.
As long as you have a 10-year perspective on the market.
For sure.
Minimum 5, but like ideally, 10 years.
I mean, I don't even talk about the flipping aspect of things. It's more long term, right?
No, buy it and hold and pay it down, and then one day when you're 65, you'll have 10 properties and they're all paid off and they're each paying you $3,000. Like, that's retirement.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's simple. It's boring.
It's so simple.
There's nothing sexy
about it.
and
something sexy about it, but just wait, right?
Just wait.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. Like, I'm not going to bet against, I don't know all markets in Canada. I can understand most of the fundamentals, at least about the 416 area of Toronto. Like, I'm not going to bet against the city in 10 years.
No, there's just too much happening. There's too much room for growth here. We know the growth is happening. The people are coming, right? I don't know where the people are going to live, but the people are coming.
The immigration numbers, if they remain where they are, at the fact that we talked about this before we started filming, but developers are not launching because the numbers aren't making sense, or they're holding back, or they're launching and not selling out, and then they can't build until I think that 70% is like they have to get the 70% to start put the shovel in the ground, unless you're like RioCan or something. So like, how is this going to play out in a decade? We're not building. We know we need more homes. People aren't buying the new stuff because the interest rates are high. Plus, we're growing by 1 million people every year. Like,
And not to get political, but like we just don't have any type of economic policy that is going to solve this problem. Like, nobody seems to be working towards solving this problem. And when politicians and parties start platforming, creating their platforms and campaigning on solving this problem, it's all kinds of a big list. Like, remember Kathleen Wynn's 16-point plan, and it's supply demand. It's such a simple concept, and for some reason politicians just do everything but help with the supply.
It's interesting, like, what I've learned from putting content out online is that some people really appreciate what you do, and regardless of how unbiased you think you're being when you're making statements on things, there's a lot of people that don't like what you are saying or disagree with what you're saying, or if you're involved in any capacity in the real estate industry, you're the bad guy or bad girl. And I've thought about this. I'm like, why is it that if you make money in real estate, like, landlords are bad people? This is bad. Developers are just greedy, and you can go through the list of everything. It's just because it's such an emotional thing. It's a home.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And my co-host on our podcast, Steve, says this all the time. He's like, if having a roof over your head ever goes out of style, let me know. Right. So it's like, but it's such a thing, and if you grew up here and you had opportunities, and even CIBC did something recently where they did it was actually a really well done video. It was basically like, if your parents own a home, you have a better chance of owning a home. If your parents don't own a home, your chances are less. And it kind of like, the numbers are the numbers. Again, you can't argue with them. But it kind of, you walked away from that video. If, let's say, your parents didn't own a home and you watched that, you would just go, okay, I guess I'm not owning a home. It's like telling you that this is now the path that you're going to take, instead of like, well, why don't we sit down and figure out a plan? And like, it might not happen right away, but
sit down and come up with a plan.
Yeah, because otherwise you're being told this is the way that this is going to play out, and you're accepting it maybe earlier on in your life instead of saying, no, screw that. Like, I'm going to create my own path. So,
tell me about your team structure.
Sure. So we have 5 agents other than me. In 2019, halfway through 2019, I had a meeting with my team, and I told them that I no longer show property. And I think they were like, great, more for us. But I made that decision because I was trying to plan out what the next 10 years of my life looked like. And I know lots of agents that sell 100 homes a year, 200 homes a year, and then have panic attacks one day. And I'm just like, this is not, I really like real estate, but I love business planning and like looking at everything from like a bird's eye view. So I made that decision. Now, I'll still do the buyer consultation, and I'm there to help people, strategize. But I'm just like, I don't take out buyers anymore. So now my role in the team is I meet with sellers, I list properties, I negotiate on the selling side, and then I give advice to buyers when they're ready to make a property or to make an offer, but I'm not out there showing. And honestly, that gave me probably 70% of my time back, which then I put heavy into the content side of things. So we have 3, I would say, like senior agents on our team that have been around for a while, and 2 that are both 3 years into the industry that are newer. And everyone that's ever joined our team has been brand new. We've never had anybody with an idea of how it should be done or shouldn't be done. So it's been interesting. I don't know if that's the formula for success, but it's worked out okay for us. And Cam's been with me 8 years, Morgan's been with me 6 years, Heather's, well, she's my mom, but 4 years, so she kind of stick around.
A little bit with you a lot longer than that.
And then 32 years. And then Wendy and Amrit, both almost just over 2 years now. So it's been like a really sticky group. And everyone that comes in brand new on our team basically builds their database through leases. Like, here's what I did, here's what everybody did, and then you're mature up the ladder. And then we basically spend our time, I spend my time looking for opportunity.
And do you have some type of training program for them at all, or does Signature have that for you?
Yeah, Signature is really good. They have like different levels of training depending on where you are in your career, because you're going to need different advice based on at what point you are. So they have that. We have 2 weekly calls that kind of update people on the stats and things like that. And then we're very into like real estate coaching. Like I've been coaching with a real estate coach for 9 of the 10 years.
Who are you using?
Richard Robbins.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I've been with him for a long time, and more than anything, like he's given me all the tools, but he helped me, and Bill Parnaby, who's actually like the coach that I talk to every 2 weeks, they helped me build my confidence. I just like didn't recognize like what was possible until you start looking around. You're like, wait a second, that person can do it. I think I can do it. Like, what's the difference here, right? Lots of people do deals with agents that are considered like the big agent.
The big agent. Yeah.
And you're like, well, are they better at negotiating than you? Are they better at selling homes than you? Maybe, but probably not. They're probably better at marketing. Probably better at getting more opportunities. So I just have really
creating
focused.
opportunities for themselves.
Creating opportunities is the number one thing that I focus on. Creating opportunities for my team, making sure that everybody's happy, and then if a team member gets to the point that they maybe don't need me anymore for opportunity, I still want to have the structure in place that they're like, we could leave, but it would be better just to stay here in this structure, and we've had that so far, knock on wood.
And what is your business mainly buyers, or is it
when I made that decision?
Yeah.
At the time when I made that decision, my business was probably like 70% buyers.
Okay.
So it was terrifying.
So it was a big decision. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I would do, and it's funny, you pulled the stats earlier. I used to have this obsession, and I would ask my office manager, I haven't done it in a few years, but I asked them all the time, can you pull the stats for downtown core and show me where I rank? It was like 26, and then whatever. And last year we were number 2, and I'm like, okay, like we're slowly building it up here. But then when I would look at the numbers, every single agent in the top 15, you pick any area, they're listing focused.
Yeah.
It was very, I was like, okay, that's interesting. Very clear to me. So it's like, I can continue to get buyers and do this, or I can go all in on listings.
Yeah, the
and
listings
just
own the market, right?
Yeah. Just go all in on and get really, really good. I think the biggest thing it did, other than obviously taking more market share, is my ability to present a listing presentation, I think is like my secret weapon. If I can get a seat at that kitchen table, we're very good at converting it, and not in a salesy way. Like I don't even bring paperwork.
Did you know what your conversion is on listing point?
It's like high 80s.
That's good.
But
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I go on a lot. Like we signed, I don't know, 50 something listings this year, maybe 60. We get pretty high, and we'll lose, 5 to 10 a year.
And what's the ratio between condos and homes?
I'd say right now it's still probably 80% condos
Okay.
on the listing side of it,
Okay.
because that's where we farm, and that's a lot of the content is made about that, so it naturally kind of comes in. But that was also strategic, and a few years ago I was like, how do I get out of condos and get into houses? Because just as a business owner, 3 condos as one house, like in terms of revenue coming in. And then I started looking at the numbers and breaking it down and going, okay, so the Toronto Real Estate Board numbers are one thing, but that includes like so many different districts. It's kind of like skewed. So I just pulled like Toronto, 416 area code, and something like 60-something% of sales every year are condos. So I'm like, okay, there's more opportunity. If I can take over a big market share there's nothing wrong with that. And I know this product. I can go in and I know it, and I'm very confident.
Yeah.
Now, we still list homes, and that's obviously the direction that will go as our clients mature more.
For sure.
But
it's just a natural transition.
just a natural transition,
Yeah.
But I didn't want to brand myself as a condo team. Like we're the Storey team, does everything. I'm not just the condo guy, but that is a chunk of our business.
Now, you said farming. So besides the digital aspect of things, how else are you farming?
Yeah, so we send 10,000 flyers every single month to, a good chunk of the downtown core of Toronto.
Mainly CO1.
CO1, CO8
Okay.
is kind of, and I pick specific pockets that I want listings in, basically. You have the objective of what you're trying to get, and then you kind of go after it. We've been doing that for 4.5, 5 years now, so it's been a while. That still works really well. It is the highest cost of business that I have. Probably cost me, to earn $1 in that type of marketing, probably cost me 35 cents. Mm-hmm. Like when you really break it down at the end of the year, it's expensive. But the great thing is that every opportunity that comes from that is a listing.
Yeah, great.
And that's all I want. I want to find more listings.
And it complements your digital content, right?
Well, what's been cool is we're putting, everyone, the QR codes have taken over the world again.
So funny. It's so, yeah. Like Japan was using QR codes in like the late 70s.
Yeah.
And like they were like obsolete over there, and we're just like COVID happened and QR codes everywhere.
And so we try to mix like the one we're working on right now is it's going to be a farming mailer on one side, and they're slightly larger than typical stuff, so they stick out in your mailbox, like it's all strategic. On one side, it'll be a big QR code, scan here to book an appointment with Tom, which just goes to my appointment page. And on the other side will be a video, like a YouTube video link. So it's actually like taking physical media to try to get them to the digital media, because I just want to get them there. So they're like, oh yeah, this guy actually does know what he's talking about. And then they can reach out to me when they're ready.
That's great.
So we're kind of combining them.
That's great. That's great. Pull out your crystal ball and tell me what's in store for 2024.
Okay, so I've had a few conversations. We just had an economist from BC on our podcast, and he thinks they're going down 100 basis points in 2024. I don't know if I'm that
Q2? Like
starting in Q2, and then they'll go down 100 in 2024, another 100 in 2025. Like, interesting, but I've now heard quite a few people in senior economist positions make these statements publicly.
Yep.
Which I wouldn't have thought that. I thought it would be a slower grind downwards. So my prediction is I think we go down 75 points next year. It starts with 25 points in Q2, which I think a lot of people are kind of on the same page as that.
Just to clarify for everybody, you're talking rates.
Bank of Canada overnight rate. Bank of Canada, they want to be between 2 and 3% on their overnight rate. Mm-hmm. That's their key rate. They're at 5. So at some point they are going to go down here.
For sure.
We just don't know exactly how fast or what it's going to look like. I do think there will be some relief to variable rate mortgage holders or people coming up on renewals. Even though Bank of Canada has nothing to do with the fixed rates, the bond yields have been going down a little bit as well. So it's trending in a direction that looks more positive than it's been in the last 18
People
months.
are packing up in Tulum right now,
Yeah.
contemplating when they're coming back.
Exactly. They've run out of sunscreen and they got to come back to Canada. So I think that's going to happen. I do think, though, it's going to be an interesting Q1 of next year. I don't think sales volume's going to – I think we're going to stay on kind of what we're at right now.
Do you feel a correction coming at all? Another little bit of a dip?
Yeah, I think there should be.
Yeah.
I think if you just it's actually surprising to me if you
I think sellers are probably getting exhausted.
They are.
Right.
There's a lot of stubborn sellers right now, and I give them credit because they've held out.
I've been saying this before this. For the last 10 years, I've been saying there's nothing more stubborn in the world than a Torontonian selling their home in a down market, right? Like it's just they hold on. They no one wants to sell their house for anything less than their neighbors did 12 months ago.
I had a luxury agent talk to me. It wasn't Kaylee, just to be clear, but they're like, we're doing a lot of stuff off market right now because people on the high end, they're embarrassed that their friends or neighbors would know that they only sold their home for $6 million because they don't want that to be public. They'll take $6 million private, but if it's on MLS, it's $7 million.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Like everything, and we take flack as real estate agents. Like, you are part of the problem. You're the reason the prices are going up. I'm like, I literally spend my day trying to educate sellers that they're priced wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally, I'm trying to take it the other direction by showing them what's actually going on.
We want a healthy market. We don't want the craziness that happened during 2021, and it's not healthy for anybody.
No, it would be nice if we had a boring market next year.
And I literally feel like a pain in my gut thinking about young people trying to get into the market, right? Like, this is just bonkers.
Because if you look at, so let's say you're on the cusp of getting into the market and the rates started going up. So now you're basically being stress tested, 8% these days?
Yeah.
That's tough on its own. And you're like, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to stay in my rental. Okay, something happened in your life, you have to move. Now your rent's $1,000 more for basically the same space because the rental prices have gone up. So the people that are just right on the entry level of getting in, they're like, okay, fine, I've finally saved a down payment, but now I'm not qualifying because the stress test is so high. All I want to do is buy my first condo. I've done everything I was supposed to do, and it's got to be so frustrating.
Disenchanting. It's like,
because
I hear so many people giving up. They just like, I give up. I just accepted that I'm not going to get into the market.
I understand it. Like, I get it. Like, you can feel hopeless, right?
Yeah.
We ran a survey. Again, we do like community surveys on our Instagram, and we asked people, I said, for the people that want interest rates to keep going up, what is your current situation? And most of them were not directly impacted by interest rates going up. They had fixed rate mortgages. But one of the biggest options was, I'm a renter. Like, okay, so you want interest rates to go up so that prices will come down so you can enter the market. But unfortunately, it's pushing up rental prices as well.
Sure, yeah.
And yes, you can buy that maybe for 50 grand less than February 2022, but your interest rate's 6%, not 3%, and your payments are way higher.
Yeah.
And condo maintenance fees have gone up a lot the last few
like,
years.
Like everything, right? Like everything
Yeah.
has. They've had to correct themselves as well.
Yeah.
Catch up with the cost of everything that's happening in the world right now.
Yeah. So I do think, though, that we'll have a slow start to next year, but I do think we will end 2024 with more transactions than 2023, which isn't like that bold of a statement because it's been like comparing it to the worst.
No, it's crazy.
But I do think confidence will pick up. What will be interesting for me to see is that at the end of 2023, you typically see all the people that are sitting on the market overpriced come off. And then they wait. And they wait for when's the market going to pick up that I can get this price again. Well, if you look at the active inventory, which for all of Toronto, we're in balanced market territory. For condos, we're firmly in buyer's market territory. How much is going to come off at the end of this year? And then when we start next year, are we still, because when you look at 2023, I think a lot of people are surprised that the first 5 months we saw price growth. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, interest rates are high. It's like, yeah, but it only happened because the inventory was low. Mm-hmm. Well, now we have higher rates and higher inventory. So I don't think next year is going to start with a bang, but I think just the talk of potential rate cuts.
Trentonians will surprise you, though, right? Trentonians will surprise you.
Yeah.
What about the stress test? I heard rumblings a few months ago that there might be some changes to the stress test as well, right?
I mean, maybe they could do it for first-time home buyers at least, where it's like, you know, if they don't believe that interest rates are going to be at this level for a long time, then maybe don't make it 2 basis points higher. Maybe make it 1, mm-hmm. or maybe scrap it. They did it recently with that mortgage charter, which was really a bunch of nothing because most of those things were already in place. But basically saying, like, let's say your fixed rate's coming up. If you stay at the same bank, you don't have to requalify. You just renew and you're good. But if you change banks, you had to requalify and re-stress test. So that kept a lot of people in maybe products that they shouldn't have been in, and they couldn't move over. Now they're saying, okay, you can go to a new bank and they're not going to requalify you. But the issue again is that they're only doing this for insured mortgages. Mm. So it's like, okay, most people have owned their house for a while probably have more than 20% in it now. So it's like, I don't know. Like, it's not that it's a bad thing, but there's got to be something that the government looks at and goes,
for sure. Yeah.
How are we going to help people enter the market here? But the terminology from the government versus maybe us is different. When the government says affordable housing, they build rental units.
Yeah, exactly.
When we say get into the market, we think ownership.
Yeah, I think supply to level off pricing, right?
Yeah.
What's in store for you in the next 5 years? You and the team?
It's a good question. I really want to double down on what we're doing with the content side of things. For myself personally, I have my real estate sales business, and then we have boot camps that we've done. I get paid for speaking engagements, and I've gotten to the point where this year, the side hustles, quote unquote, have paid for my lifestyle. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So then everything that goes over here reinvests into the business or helps me buy properties. But I don't necessarily know if I want to build like this really big team. I kind of like our little, like a media. I like it's like a pound for pound, like a fighter. I could go into any weight class and we'd be okay. Like that's kind of how I think about it. Like we can compete with anybody. But I just want to see growth. I want to see growth in terms of just what we're doing. Not even necessarily like income or anything, which would be great, mm-hmm. but just I want to take over market share. I want to continue to take it over. I want to put more ads out there. I want people to understand that who we are, because I know that if I can get an opportunity to sit down with someone and explain what we do and how we do it, our success rate's pretty high, and people like working with us.
That's great. So
I'm just carried down the path, and secretly I'll set some pretty wild goals because, you know, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to look at it. I'm 32 now, but when I was 26, I wrote on a piece of paper, and it was 10 things. It was like, oh, you need to accomplish these before you're 30. And I folded it up, and I had it in my wallet.
Amazing.
And I hit 9 of those things.
It's powerful.
So I want to do again, and before I'm 40 or whatever the number is.
Sounds like, you know, the secret and hokey pokey, but it's not. It's so powerful.
What you're looking for.
When you're looking at that and you pull it out and you see it, and yeah, I'm a big list guy. I like everything has to be written down for me.
It has to. It can't, and even like it has to physically be written down with a pen. Like I feel like sure. Even like the technology stuff, it needs
not on
to
your
be
phone,
written down, and I have to see it, and I'll see it once, and I'll be like, oh yeah. Wonder how close I am to that. So.
Yeah. Tell me your favorite neighborhoods in the city. That's how I ended with the 2 questions. Favorite neighborhoods in the city?
I mean, I've only lived in a few. My favorite neighborhoods. I guess it would depend on the age that you are. Like, personally, I'm going to be 100% biased here. I like the beaches because I live there.
Yeah, okay.
It's really...
You live there now?
I live there
Okay.
now. It's a really nice, tight... It sucks to get downtown, but anywhere sucks to get
so
downtown.
hard to get downtown
right?
now. Yeah.
Really enjoy the beaches. That would be my main one right now.
Number 2?
I think King West. No, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. St. Lawrence Market.
Okay.
So if it was a house, I'd say beaches. If it was a condo, I'd say St. Lawrence Market. I think like 1 Scott Street, 88 Scott, 55 Front Street East, 138 Princess. There's like a few buildings there that I can just... Cool buildings that I want to live in. You can walk to St. Lawrence Market. You can walk to the Leafs games, the Raptors games, the concerts. It was very nice living there.
Nice. And top 2 favorite restaurants in the city?
Okay, there's a sushi place called Yasu.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I've been
my
there
God.
once, and
It's
it's like...
It's so good.
It's so good. So I actually have a gift
It's
card.
so different. Like you think to yourself, how can you elevate sushi anymore? And it's just so incredible.
The service level in
experience as well, right? Like,
yeah, I highly recommend anyone that likes sushi. It's going to cost a lot of money, but go there for dinner one night and have a good time. And then my second answer is going to be super boring, but you know what? The Keg never disappoints.
Second person on the podcast that named
it
the
never
Keg.
disappoints. The steak's always good. It's 30. Well, there's been inflation on Keg prices too, but still, the Keg's just.
You can't go to Jacob every night.
No, exactly, right? You can't get the Wagyu every night.
No, it's so true. Like the Keg is consistent. I'm actually partial to Ruth Chris. Like Ruth Chris.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It's like the Keg. It's consistent.
Yeah.
Bomb steak every time.
Yeah,
They never mess it up.
You're never going to mess it up. You're going to have a good time. It's fun. And the atmosphere is fun.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
Just type in my name to YouTube, Tom Storey. If you like these type of real estate podcasts, we put one out every single Sunday. We're on episode 85 now. So we've really gone into that. It's just called The Tom Storey Show. I guess Instagram is The Story Team with an E. That's where you can find me.
Perfect. Thanks for coming on. Really pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Yeah.